Hey, joining me today is Ruairi Barnwell with the DLR Group. He's a principal and the head of the building optimization group in the Chicago office, based in the Chicago office. He's an expert on something called smart building analytics and building optimization. And Ruairi, one of the problems that we've written a lot about in BD+C and our other publications is that we have the problem of architects and the designers and the engineers not really knowing how their building is turning out. Not enough to post-occupancy evaluations or even commissioning studies sometimes. And frustration on the part of the facilities people that they're not involved early enough in either a new project or a reconstruction, reworking of the building. How does smart building analytics figure into all that?
Yeah, Rob. Yeah, it's a huge issue right now. I think, I'd say, traditionally design teams, responsibility ends, at the end of design, at the end of the warranty review period, and most typically, you have commissioning has come on in leaps and bounds over the last few years, but I still think it's not a perfect system in terms of handing over a building at peak, operating performance and the facilities team, being expected to operate that building in peak performance, not really knowing much about the different systems, the interoperability between those systems. We have a lot of, even the most modern, quote unquote, smart buildings we have on the market today. Still, you'd be very surprised once you really dig in, look behind the curtain there. There's a lot of disparate data sources and siloed systems and, state-of-the-art building automation systems and lighting control systems and energy management systems and conference room booking systems, but none of them talking to each other, none of them sharing data in a meaningful way. For facilities
and you have a lot of prediction, like this building is going to have an EUI that's terrific, or it's going to produce some other benefit, and sometimes we find out that that does not happen in fact in the building.
I mean, that's it. As an industry, we've been fixated on predictions and simulation. The energy modeling, building simulation is a very important tool for the design process, but we've become too reliant on it for getting that plaque on the wall. Based on a model that was done during 100% CDs, not really updated throughout the value engineering process, or just the not really updated to an as-built model. And
so what are some of the techniques or tools in smart building analytics that should be applied more frequently by building teams?
Well, I mean, I think focusing on outcomes, I think utilizing fault detection and diagnostic platforms, getting that deeper level of understanding how building systems are operating post occupancy, into operations. We've got, again, an energy model. It gives you a very deep understanding of how we think the system is going to operate. But as we know, there's very little connection between, the facilities managers generally don't have any kind of insight onto what those design sequences were. I think truing up, I think as a, I think we have been moving towards more of a focus on outcomes rather than predictions or following prescriptive tables in the code to kind of check boxes.
What are you hearing from clients? What's worrying them these days in your area of smart building analytics? What's on their minds?
I think again, interoperability of these systems. Being able to share data in a meaningful way to operate. To bridge that gap, to close that loop between design, construction, and high performance operations. I think clients are worried about making the wrong technology decisions, or choosing the wrong technology that.
What about cost? Are they worried about cost of, you mentioned fault detection and diagnostics. There's other fancy stuff, monitoring based commissioning, connected commissioning, all these fancy things. Are they worried about the costs involved with this? Or are they
No, I mean, cost is clearly always a concern. I would
Mhm.
say where traditionally we have been, very focused on cost in an energy sense.
Yeah,
I think now we can justify those costs in a more holistic way outside of just dollars and cents on savings on a utility bill. So I think we're looking at costs more holistically now. Had been prior
more
to.
long term, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Taking a more holistic approach to the life cycle of those systems. How
Right.
are we operating the buildings really?
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately where we need to get to is ingrain those decisions into the design process for how the building's going to operate.
Right. So we're in this terrible situation here with COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
How is that impacting your job, what you try to bring to projects, and and the whole field of smart building analytics? What's new and horrible that you're having to deal with as a result of COVID?
Yeah, I'd say it's not necessarily new, but more acceleration of different trends that we had around prior to this pandemic. I'd say indoor air quality is a big one
Yeah.
right now.
Hmm.
Everyone wants to know how what KPIs should we be tracking, what should we be sharing with our tenants, with our employees to kind of um, communicate that this is a safe place to come back to. I'm here in my office today, but I'd be surprised if Chicago was more than 10% occupied right now
And
downtown.
you've got that conflict, if you will, between energy use,
Mm-hmm.
right? You want to keep the ventilation kind of as low as you can get away with. And
Mm-hmm.
now we're seeing we need more ventilation. So energy costs are going to go up, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we've
Yeah.
been following. I mean, ASHRAE 62.1 has been kind of the Bible for indoor air quality, but it's the standard for minimally acceptable indoor air quality.
Yeah.
I think
Keeps you out of
clearly.
jail.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. It's the minimum you can get away with without getting sued. So I think right now what we're looking, how do we push past that? Focus on minimums, focus on prescriptive following tables, um, and move towards them.
Do you see like private ventilation or personalized ventilation as a possibility in the future?
Maybe for some of the enhanced things like bipolar ionization or
Yeah.
UVGI, but I think focusing on the fundamentals, the simple thing, getting like things like ventilation, filtration. I think once you get those right and once you can communicate those with the building occupants, I think it that goes a long way.
Do you think bipolar and UV work?
Well, that's the big question everyone's asking right now, and honestly, that's probably part of what keeps clients up at night. Is
Yeah.
they have their investors that wants to, everyone wants the COVID-free building, but there's no
Right.
such thing, right? And there's no
Right.
such thing as you've got everyone selling that, oh, this is going to kill COVID. No, no, we can combine a lot of best practices to give the best
Right.
to do the best we can, but at the end of the day there's no silver bullet that's going to stop this thing, and
Right.
outside of wearing masks and washing hands and doing everything else.
Okay. Well, Ruairi Barnwell, thank you so much for joining us today. I've been speaking to Ruairi Barnwell, who's a principal and building optimization group leader for DLR Group based in the Chicago office. Thanks for your expertise and advice.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rob. Thanks for having me on.